We're here, right, to talk about vaping and what you need to know. Today isn't so much about the BBC as much as it is about our relationship with the schools, with you, and with Daniel specifically, to bring you some really important, impactful information for yourself. Here's just a little bit more for you to know that we're youth-focused drug and alcohol prevention, bringing the community together to give you guys, teens, a positive voice and presence on this. We survey teens throughout the community, about 4,000 every year. We really don't do anything without including you and talking to you about what we want to do to help you be healthier and happier as you grow up and as you get ready for adulthood. And today, like I said, I'm going to introduce Daniel in a moment, but I really wanted to talk to you about the Youth Action Board. This is a group of high school students from Birmingham and Bloomfield Hills, public and private schools, who meet on a regular basis. This is an opportunity for you to get involved, help plan things like this. We've had a couple of Sacred Heart students over the years. We'd love to get more. Currently we have students from Seaholm, Groves, Bloomfield Hills High School, Detroit Country Day, Brother Rice. So it's a really great opportunity to meet and make healthy connections, share what you're going through with other students from other schools, and not only that, make a positive difference, because what we discuss, what we dialogue on, what we plan and do, we actually bring to the community. Like this presentation is a result of a student finding Daniel Ament and his story, and we reached out to him and said, hey, you know, what have you gone through? What are you doing? And he actually started his own nonprofit, which is why we're able to bring him here to you today, through the efforts of the BBCC and his nonprofit Fight for Wellness. So I just want to let you know this is an opportunity for you to get involved. And just a little bit about the Youth Action Board. Here's some pictures of us out and about in the community, pre-pandemic, during pandemic, and post-pandemic. So we've gone through it all, just like you. But like I said, we're giving you guys a positive voice and presence, supporting teens in everything that you're going through, and shine a positive light, right? That doesn't happen too often. So this is just a few pictures of what we do out and about in the community. You can get involved. April Wilcox knows very well how to get in touch with us and how you can get involved. We meet on Sundays. We're all over the social media. We even have a TikTok, so we're like right there with you. But I am going to just go ahead and introduce Daniel to you, so because today is about him and sharing his story.
So yeah, my name is Daniel Ament. I go to Wayne State. I'm 20. I just turned 20. I actually just got back from traveling in California in my RV, and I came here to talk to you guys about vaping because when I was 16, like she said, I received a double lung transplant due to vaping, and this was about 3 years ago. I was unaware of what consequences I could face, and I thought that vaping was just water vapor and nicotine, and I stayed away from it until my sophomore year of high school. And I'd mostly just vape at parties and around friends, and I only had my own vape for around 2 weeks. So I was vaping a lot less than everyone else around me. I really did think it was water vapor and nicotine, and the only thing I was scared of was possibly getting addicted, but I thought I had enough self-control to where I could control it, so I wasn't really worried about that. And nicotine is one of the hardest addictions to quit, so there's really no point to ever start if you haven't. But yeah, I'm just going to talk a little bit about my time in the hospital now, and then I'll show you guys my video and keep speaking about some more broad topics. So my symptoms first came on when I was at work in August of 2019. I just had a headache, back pain, and symptoms of a fever pretty much. And the next day, or a few days after that, was my first day of junior year. And I actually hadn't hit a vape for around maybe 3 days to a week at this point because I had been quitting, because I had told myself, first day of junior year, I'm done with this. I don't want to continue this and get an addiction possibly. But yeah, so I had fatigue, nausea, back pain, and a headache all out of nowhere. And I powered through my first day of junior year, but I just felt very sick. So the next day, I went to my pediatrician and got an x-ray, and they said, nothing seems to be wrong, but if you feel short of breath, go to the ER. The next day, or the next night, I felt short of breath, so I went to the ER. After that, I remember sitting in the ER room on the bed, and that was my last memory before losing all of my memory for the next 55 days before I woke up from the double lung transplant. And when I woke up, I had no idea what was going on. It just came all very sudden, and I got very sick very quickly. I was in a coma for about 28 days. I suffered 55 days of memory loss. I lost 30% of my body mass, so I went from 155 pounds to 99 pounds. I was unable to walk because of my muscles atrophying, and I was unable to hold up my phone because it was too heavy. And when your muscles atrophy, that's basically because I was in a coma and in bed for so long, all of my muscles basically just died, and they were like lost all my weight, couldn't even lift up my phone. And this is all after only vaping for about 9 months. I never purchased my own vape, and like I said, I only had my own for 2 weeks when I found one in the bottom of my car. I bought pods for it for like 2 weeks at this local store that sold to any kids that would come in. But yeah, so now I'm gonna show you guys the video.
In 2015, Juul was founded, and this would have an effect on youth that we could have never imagined. Smoking rates were at an all-time low. We were almost the generation to end smoking. Juul, which is 35% owned by Altria, a tobacco company, got our generation hooked on nicotine within only a few years. When I was in 8th grade, people started to vape around me. By freshman year, my entire friend group was vaping. By sophomore year, I started vaping with a Juul too. I saw Juul become a part of pop culture, and quickly most kids around me were vaping. I would say at least half of my high school. This video is going to be my story and how vaping affected my life. Ever since I was young, I played sports. I was a healthy kid. I participated in sailing and swimming ever since I could remember. I was a runner through my freshman and sophomore year, and I would spend my summers outside from 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. and then do it again the next day. My ultimate goal was to get into the Naval Academy and then attempt to become a Navy SEAL. This was my dream ever since I was 11 or 12. I made an effort to stay away from drugs and alcohol because of this. My freshman year, I completely stayed away from any partying, and I had a 4.1 GPA, and I played 4 sports. I had no time for vaping and didn't even entertain the idea. In the first few months of sophomore year, I got a knee injury from overuse. I was pushing myself too hard. Eventually, I was hanging out with friends more, and I started vaping too. All of my friends had Juuls, so it was hard to stay away from. Before I started vaping, I did some research on the internet and found out that it was just water vapor and nicotine, and that it was completely safe and nothing to worry about. I thought that the only side effect would be getting an addiction at some point, so I just never bought a vape. I would hit my friends at lunch a few times, get my buzz, and do it again the next day. I would keep in mind that if I bought one, I'd get addicted, it'd be a waste of money. By the summer, I followed this pattern until I found someone's Juul in my car in June of 2019, and I bought pods for it for a few weeks, and then I threw it into the lake. I continued to hit my friends' Juuls a few times in the day so I wouldn't get addicted. I just wanted the buzz, and it was a social thing. In August of 2019, I told myself that the day school started, I would stop hitting my friends' vapes, so I didn't get a long-term addiction. A few days before school started, I hit my last vape. The first day of my junior year, I felt really sick. The night before, I had a headache and back pain. Then the next morning, I had a fever. I went to school anyway, not knowing that I had the fever because I didn't want to miss orientation. I ended up being unable to breathe later that night with worsening symptoms. I went to the ER. The doctors took an x-ray and said nothing was wrong and that I just had anxiety. I was sitting on my bed in the ER room made of curtains. My mom and dad were sitting against the left wall. This is the last image I remember before 55 days of nothing, but it was instant in terms of time for me. Within that time, where I remember absolutely nothing, I'd been through 2 hospitals, put on ECMO, which is basically life support, was in a 2-week coma, and received a double lung transplant. I woke up with no recollection of who I was, where I was, or even what I was. My ego was so disillusioned from all the drugs from the surgery. I had delusions and nightmares. I thought I was kidnapped on a prison ship, and I thought the nurses were trying to kill me. All while being unable to talk and feeling like breathing on my own was impossible. Over the next few days, I slowly understood what the nurses had told me, that I'd had a double lung transplant and it was due to vaping. My instant thoughts were that I would never be a Navy SEAL. When I woke up, I could not talk. I could not eat. I could not drink. I could not lift my phone. I could not lift my head. I could not lift my legs. I could not move. I had gone from 155 pounds to 99 pounds, losing 30% of my body mass. 1 second, I was short of breath in the ER, and then I was waking up in an unfamiliar body, unable to communicate, In a word, it was terrifying, but that doesn't do it justice. I stayed in the hospital recovering for 20 more days. I could not stand on my own when I got out. Eventually, I could stand and walk again. I had to go through months of intense physical therapy. I received my transplant October 15th, 2019. I was the first double lung transplant due to vaping. I decided I would start my nonprofit Fight for Wellness with the main starting goal of combating the youth vaping epidemic in the simplest way I thought to, by sharing my story. I started speaking at schools. Eventually, I was doing Zoom meetings during COVID at different events. I did interviews and I filmed a PSA for the Michigan Health Department. I've also participated in multiple documentaries. Throughout that time, I was working out, eating as much food as I could. I had to catch up my entire junior year online and then also my entire senior year. I never got to go back to school after my first day of junior year. I'm now still working on my nonprofit. I still have a goal of helping the youth vaping epidemic, and it seems to be worse than ever. In the past year, every single new person I've met around my age has been vaping. It seems worse to me now than it was when I started. I still see it around me every day. So yeah, that is my story and how vaping has affected me in my life. I encourage that if you do need help quitting, reach out to someone, go to an adult, and if they really care about you, they won't get mad, they'll help you. And now on to what I'm doing now. I've always had a passion for video and music production. I'm currently working on a documentary with the New York Times, and I have plans to film an independent documentary to spread awareness about the youth vaping epidemic that is worse than ever. I am turning a bus into an RV with my friend to follow these passions and projects. I included this segment about what my goals are for the future and how I'm working toward them because I want you to think about what your goals are and what you want to do. Vaping changed the trajectory of my life, and I had to completely reevaluate everything. I encourage you to understand that vaping and substance abuse can have drastic effects on your health and therefore affect your plans for the future directly. Our dreams and goals are what we live for, and we need our health to achieve them. Like I said, time is the most important resource we have, and I've learned that from experience. If you're currently vaping and you don't know if you want to quit, I'll ask you this. Is it worth that small buzz that you're getting every day, or maybe you're not even getting a buzz because you've been vaping for so long, to sacrifice your health and your time, which is the most precious resource we have? Think about what's going into your body, who created that, where it came from. You have no idea. The only thing that you should be inhaling is oxygen in the end, and make your choice for yourself.
Yeah, now I'm just going to talk more broadly about things just because, I don't know, I just think it's good to have an open dialogue and think of any questions because I'm going to open that up after. So yeah, we don't know what we're inhaling when we're vaping and if it's safe or not. A lot of the manufacturers now, especially the disposable vapes, if you guys are vaping, you're probably using disposable vapes because that's what's popular right now. Like Puff Bar, for example, made in China, but I'll get onto that. Yeah, so it's a vape in China that sells for around $10 at a gas station or vape shop. And from what I could find online, it costs anywhere from 20 cents to $2 to manufacture. Most of that cost is from the battery, so the rest of that, few cents, tens of cents is spent on the chemicals that you're inhaling and putting in your lungs. And then there's no quality control in these factories. And in the end, you don't even know if there was quality control and it was all perfect and it was all created perfectly. Is the mechanism of a vape actually safe? And the answer is no. And are the chemicals that they're using to make the nicotine able to be inhaled in the way that it is and put into that aerosol, which it's aerosol, it's not water vapor, is that safe? No, it's not, and it's not regulated in any way. While researching, I found this article from the National Library of Medicine from June of 2022. Puff bars have increased in popularity as their product design evaded strict regulations imposed on alternate products such as Juul. Puff bar use can lead to increased risk of e-cigarette product use, associated lung injury, and exposure to carcinogens. Furthermore, the developmental risks of nicotine use during adolescence include negative effects on cognitive function and detriments to short-term memory. So, yeah, and most people now are using disposable vapes. It's likely a similar about what I just talked about in terms of all disposable vapes. Most of them are made, somewhere else for cheaper and then for very cheap. According to an article in Missouri Medicine, there is no real regulation of either nicotine-containing electronic cigarette products or marijuana extracts for vaping. Every part of the manufacturing process allows for error and contamination. So like I said, even if this wasn't happening, the normal processes still are not safe, but it's still good to think about. And device-specific concerns, the makeup of the liquid products being vaporized, and the potential for toxicity of nicotine or THC when inhaled in concentrated forms, and the pharmacologically active components of vaping products are not regulated, and the methods by which they are extracted and suspended in solution vary greatly. The user believes they are inhaling a very pure form of nicotine or THC, but there's often little regard for what else is being inhaled. So it's like, yeah, maybe it is safe to vape nicotine in the way if it was just nicotine, or THC if it was just THC, but it's not. There's a ton of other things that have to be added to this concoction to allow it to be aerosolized. And this is the most scary thing. Do you trust these new methods of, getting a buzz and inhaling chemicals? Do you trust the new methods of inhaling chemicals enough to get the buzz? I mentioned it in the video, but you have no idea how dangerous something could be when you hit one of these, especially if you are getting it from a friend because you're underage, or even if you're getting it from a store. Like I said, none of it is regulated to be safe in any way. As of today, vaping is not FDA approved, so that means it's not approved to be safe. We are becoming the guinea pigs, and there is just so much room for contamination. The way these devices function in the first place is not safe, and ignoring the risk of new devices coming onto the market or some guy in their garage making juices is a real risk. And this goes for nicotine and THC vapes. Some of these new devices are just coming out, so new mechanisms, new chemicals, new concoctions, like it's just being put out on the market like it's tested, but it's not. It's just like cigarettes. You guys know cigarettes aren't safe, but they're still sold. That doesn't mean it's good. And that doesn't mean it's been approved by someone that knows what they're talking about. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how does the device function. So a metal coil is heated up to 400 degrees to heat up the vapor that is on the cotton, and then that turns into the aerosol that you inhale. So all that metal is coming off of that cheap 20-cent coil or however many cent coil and coming off into your lungs along with all the chemicals. And I'll talk about this in a second, but in 12 out of 24 studies of a specific study by Environmental Health Perspectives, there was metal in some of the juice bottles before they even went into the aerosol. So that's an example of contamination. So yeah, you're inhaling the additives and flavoring along with the contaminants that could have gotten in. Now all that is in your lungs, which you need to breathe. In an article compiling studies by Environmental Health Perspectives in 2020, 12 studies reviewed reported metal levels in e-liquid bottles. 12 studies reported metal levels in e-cigarette aerosols. So that's 12 out of 24. So half of the studies, or half of the tests they did, or half of the bottles and devices they tested positive for metal in the bottles and the juice, or in the juice and the aerosol. So that's before and after it's been vaporized. So now I want to talk a little bit broadly about kind of why we get addicted, how can we stay away from it, how can we make better lives for ourselves in general. So when I started to vape, I had my knee injury, and that threw me off track. My overarching goal since I was 11 was to try and become a Navy SEAL, but after my injury, I felt demotivated. I was also dealing with, just stress from school, and that's what led me to just start hanging out with friends more, kind of give up on some of my goals and start vaping. And for those of you that don't know what dopamine is, I fell for the short-term dopamine trap of vaping. And for those of you that don't know what dopamine is, it's the chemical in your brain that makes you feel happy. So when we evolved to feel this chemical because this chemical told us that steak that you just ate when you killed that animal and cooked it made you feel good. That apple that you ate that had sugar in it that made you feel good. But now we mass produce foods with sugar, and it's not good to eat that in mass. So we have to think about what do we have in excess of now today in society, because we can produce all these things, and is this something that is benefiting us in the long run to be consuming every day? So like sweets, for example, that's something we all have to be careful of. TikTok, when you scroll on TikTok, your dopamine levels go way up here because you're getting all this attention, and then when you're off of it, they come way down here. So then you go back on it, you waste another 2 hours. That's what addiction is. That's what is causing this. So when you're vaping and you're up here and then you stop, it's going to be really hard to come down here, but then this will become your new normal and it'll feel like you're up here again. So you just have to get away from it for enough time to where you're not going to feel those effects. But it's good to understand goals, because that goal of becoming a Navy SEAL was the reason that I said I'm done vaping junior year. Even though I still got sick, that made me make the decision to stop vaping by junior year. So if you have goals that are providing you, dopamine in a way that you are being productive and feeling happy that, hey, I'm working toward my goals, I'm making progress, you are going to get dopamine from that. So getting dopamine from activities that are productive to you and are going to be good in the long run is a good thing to think about when you're trying to get away from substances and stay away from substances. Like, you don't need any of these things. They're enhancements that a lot of people use because they don't get dopamine in places that are natural to them. So they artificially just take these chemicals, they eat that sweet, they do whatever, and play that video game, scroll on TikTok to get that happiness, because in the short term, they're not getting any happiness at the moment. But when you're doing this for, say you vape, the feeling goes away. You're not gaining any benefit from this. But when you get that from, for example, working out, you gain a benefit from that long run. And then in 5 years, you're going to be a better person because you become the decisions you make. So if you make the decision today, okay, I'm not going to quit today, I'm going to continue and I'll quit tomorrow, then that becomes today. The only moment you have is the present moment. So whatever decision you make right now, you're going to fall into a habit and make that decision again. So in 5 years, if you want to be somewhere and you're not making the decision that you would make in 5 years, that ideal image you have of yourself, like, where do you want to be? Okay, I want to be here. This is what that person would do. This is what my ideal self would do. If you don't do that today, you will never be your ideal self. So it's good to think about that when you're trying to create goals. Where do I want to be, and what would that person be doing in my shoes right now? Because if you don't, then you're going to fall into your old habits, because most of our actions are automatic. We fall into rituals. We fall into, after school, say you lay down and you go on your phone, and then then you spend 2 hours, then you do your homework, then you brush your teeth, you remember to do these things. They're kind of become automatic. But yeah, I would encourage you to be mindful as you form interests, so you can find things that you're passionate about and could turn into a career, so you can live a fulfilling life and not need substances to enhance your life in a temporary way. If you're getting this dopamine from a place, like I said, that is productive, then you're going to be a better person in 5 years. I find that a lot of people I meet today in college that vape and drink all the time don't have any real goals, so they fill their meaningless purpose with substances to try to feel happy because it makes them happy. It is artificial happiness. But are you becoming a better person with that, and is that helping you out in the long run? And there are a lot of traps like that today because we have an excess of things. We kind of hit a peak. Like, we're at a pretty good point in society where we can produce all these things. We can have so much entertainment at our fingertips. So that's where self-control comes in, and think, okay, where do I want to get in life? And what am I going to do to get there? Am I going to live a hedonistic lifestyle and just consume for the rest of my life? Am I never going to create anything of value? Do you care about that? Because some people don't. Some people want to live a hedonistic life and just, fall for that short-term trap, because it is happiness. It's still as real, like dopamine is real in any sense. It is still real, but it is artificial. It is gained in an artificial way, and you are not gaining any meaningful progress in your life the next day because it goes away. It's all temporary. I want to talk a little bit about how you can get started toward quitting. And number one is just to have a reason. But you guys all have a reason. You want to be able to breathe. You want to not be limited by your health. And you want to be able to accomplish your goals and not have to worry about, if I skip a meal, I'm going to feel really sick, because that's what happens to me. If I have to stay super on everything, like sleep, food, everything. But like before, I could probably not eat the whole day and still feel completely fine, like drop down and do 20 push-ups. Now, I'd probably pass out. Like, I'm on so much medication. It's not like you don't want to deal with any of this. But a good example of a plan that you could do is just, if you have a vape, get rid of all vapes. I know that's a really hard leap, so I'll go a little shorter than that. Count how many times you've hit it in a day. And the next day, hit it one less time. Or try to get on nicotine gum or something like that. Like, talk to your doctor, see if you can get prescribed something like that. They can make a plan for you, and you will be weaned off of it slowly, so you won't have to deal with any of the effects of the withdrawals from nicotine, because they are hard. That's why most people go back on it. And also, you're gonna have to stay away from people that are doing it for a while if you don't have that self-control, like maybe 2 to 3 weeks. But after that point, then it'll be a lot easier to stay off of because you won't have the cravings as hard anymore. Like if I see someone vaping, I have 0 cravings. It's been 3 years, but like I didn't even have cravings when I was in the hospital because I wasn't vaping every day. So I don't even remember having cravings when I quit because I was like 5 days, 3 days to a week quit when I got sick. But yeah, that's all I have for that part of my speech. So if you guys have any questions, just raise your hands, and thank you for listening.
Daniel, maybe I'll just kick things off. A couple of the questions we had in the last few sessions we did were about the fear of getting in trouble, asking for help for yourself or a friend.
Like if they're gonna get in trouble or if I got in trouble?
No, if somebody wants help, right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
For a friend.
yeah, I talk about this like in the long run. Like I don't even think about this because it's like if you get sick, your parents aren't gonna be like, they're not gonna like ground you. You're gonna be sick. They're gonna have way too much to worry about. Like when I went into a coma, like you do not. It is such a small scale. Like even if you were to get in trouble, if you have a problem and you need to quit, which I mean, I don't think you're going to get in trouble. Like if you go to an adult, like they know this is a problem or they know there's a reason I'm talking to you guys, I'm sure. And I'm sure that if you went to an adult and you ask them for help and you don't get caught, you ask them for help, they're going to help you. They're not gonna, get you in trouble and all that. And I know for a fact that I would not have gone to an adult when I was 16. I would have just tried to quit myself. I was very stubborn and I thought I wasn't addicted. I don't know if I was. I probably technically was because I craved it. But yeah, I mean, it's such a small scale compared to getting sick. If you need help to get off of something that's hurting you and there's people around you that care about you, then go ask them for help. Yeah.
What exactly is your company?
My company is a nonprofit that just spreads awareness. So I go to speak at schools and things like that, or other events just to get outreach to as many people as I can so that they don't have to go through something like what I went through basically.
So when you quit, when you got out of your coma, you didn't crave it anymore?
No, I didn't even crave it when I quit because I was not vaping every day. So I think I would vape maybe in the summer it's probably a bit more, but on average every 3 days I'd hit it once, then I'd get the feeling from it and then I'd be good. But if someone was around me the whole night, I'd probably hit it more because I'd be at friends' houses and stuff and we'd sleep over and stuff. So, but yeah, I think I quit a week before I got sick, and because I don't remember specifically, it was 3 years ago, but yeah, I don't remember having any issues with it because I never even had one myself. So I was just in my house doing my school summer work probably, and my brother had one. So I think the last one I hit was his, just going to his room asking if I could hit it. And then after that, I was just okay, I'm done. Because I told myself first day of junior year, I'm not gonna hit it. And I don't remember having any real issue with it, but I got sick literally right then. All right, well, if there's no more,
How has this impacted your friendships and things like that now that, you've gone through the double lung transplant and everything?
Yeah, so I mean, it's hard because I'm in college. A lot of people are vaping around me all the time. A lot of people smoke cigarettes. A lot of people smoke weed. A lot of people drink. And I have to stay away from that. I can't be inhaling that and having that secondhand smoke. So people I meet, right away, because a lot of the people I meet, I'd say 2 out of 3 people I have to be hey, can you not do that around me? And sometimes they'll literally just forget because it's such a bad habit, because they're so addicted, they'll just hit it and we'll be in a car, I'll roll down my window really quick and literally stick my head out because I'm I don't want to breathe that. And they'll be oh, I'm sorry, and they'll blow it out. But then I'm just dude, and I'll explain everything that happened to me. This one kid I just met, literally that scenario, we were in the car and he was just yeah, it's a bad habit. And then he was just I could tell he was thinking about it and he was kind of in shock a little bit, like, oh, this could be hurting me. But I mean, he just went right back to it. He's still vaping. Like, I met him like 2 weeks ago. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna deal with people that are vaping around you if you haven't already, and the only person you can control is yourself. So you have to make that decision for yourself, who you're gonna surround yourself with. And you can definitely be friends with people that vape, and you can be friends with people that drink, and you can be friends with people that smoke cigarettes. It's their life. But you have to think about your life and what you want to do and how this could impact you. All right, well, thank you guys for listening.